good morning. Well, we're glad you're here, and hopefully, I think we all have our seats good. Okay, let me throw this statement out to you and see if it hits you as true. A man can die of a paper cut if he picks at it for long enough. Think about that for a second. Silly, isn't it? A small paper cut you may get on your finger. If a wound never heals, what happens? It gets infected, and that infection can do a lot of bad things. It might kill you. What about the wounds that we can't see? The ones not an abrasion or bruise or cut to our body, but the wounds that are created by words, by betrayal, by abusers, by people who use us. What about those wounds? We're going to talk about those this morning because each one of us, we could probably look at a point in our life when we felt like the victim. We felt like someone has taken advantage of us, done something to us, and we have found ourselves in this helpless state of being their victim and held captive there. And maybe some of us are looking at our life and saying, well, what really qualifies as that? This morning, we're going to look at a guy's life who he definitely qualified. We're going to be in the book of Genesis. We're going to try to cover 13 chapters today. Ooh. Take that, Pastor Paul, on your 2 verses a week. No, we're going to try to get through it, but it's going to be a lot. We're going to go pretty fast, so stay with me, and we'll see after looking at Joseph's life what it has for us. All right? Lord, thank you once again. Give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and heart to understand what your word has for us. God, if we have walls built up in our life where Satan has built them to stop us from understanding this kind of message and what you would have for us that could free us from bondage, we ask that you knock those down. You prepare our hearts as you already have for the worship. Prepare our hearts even now to receive what you have for us. In Jesus' name, amen. A young man, 17 years old, has dreams. Joseph has dreams, and not a lot of sense at first. He tells his dreams to his brothers, which doesn't sound bad at first until you hear what the dreams are about. He has a dream that he and his brothers are out in the field gathering either it's hay or wheat or something in the bundles. And he tells them, hey, bros, hey, so there we were in the field gathering stuff. And my bundle rose up by itself. And then your bundles, I guess, waddled over to it and then bowed down to it. How weird is that? And then he tells them, and if that wasn't clear enough, I had a dream last night that the sun, moon, and 11 stars came and bowed down to me. What do you think it means? And so he tells his brothers his dreams. And immediately they cut right to the perceived interpretation. So what, you're going to rule over us? Is that what you're saying? You're going to rule and reign over us, Joseph? Huh? We're going to bow down to you? Not just us, the 11 stars, but mom and dad too? Huh? Really? And it says they hated him because of his words and because of his dreams. But honestly, did they really need the dreams? If you knew this kind of family dynamic that they were living in, they were dysfunctional. Favoritism. Joseph was daddy's favorite, obviously. It probably didn't help that you could probably pick out Joseph in the family photo. He's the one where everybody else is wearing normal clothes. Joseph has gotten this tunic, this coat of many colors. He stuck out. He was his father's favorite. It doesn't exactly say why. I would imagine, though, Joseph being the son of his late and beloved wife, Rachel. Rachel died in childbirth, giving birth to Joseph's little brother, Benjamin. I bet every time Jacob looked at Joseph, he saw a little bit of Rachel. And that's why he liked him better. But he showed his favoritism. Boy, did he. The 10 older brothers were out in the field, and they had taken their sheep pretty far, and so Dad wants to keep an eye on him, so he sends Joseph, hey, go tell me what your brothers are doing. I don't trust those guys. Go tell me what they're doing and come back. And so Joseph heads out. Maybe he's packed a lunch for them. He's going to go meet them and then come back to Dad. And so he goes to see them. He travels around. He has to find out where they are. And his brothers see him coming from a ways out. Look at what it says in verse 18 of 37. When they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. Come, therefore, let us kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. There he is, little Joseph on the horizon. Oh, little tiny Joseph. And as he comes closer, they're saying, okay, here, get ready. Maybe it was Judah. As Joseph approaches, Judah's like, hey, bro, bring it in. With a smile, and it comes in for an embrace, only to grab him by the neck. Simeon and Levi may be coming from the corners, grab each side of his collar, and rip the tunic of many colors right off of him. They rough him up, beat him around. They start to laugh. Huh? What now? Huh? Oh, did you dream about this one? They throw him into a pit. Reuben had told him, hey, okay, let's not kill him, though. Let's not kill him. We don't want his blood on our hands. Let's just put him in a pit. Reuben thought he was going to rescue him later. That never happened. And so they have this pit. It's this dry well. They throw him down, and he hits it hard. There's no water in it. He hits the bottom. He's beaten up, bruised, bleeding, naked. He can hear his brothers up top sitting down to the lunch, laughing. Yeah, what are you going to dream tonight, Joseph? This is his brothers. These aren't strangers. He isn't jumped by people he didn't know. This is his family. He didn't expect this. This shouldn't have happened. There's no reason to hate anyone but family. As they're eating lunch, probably, they see a caravan of Ishmaelite spice traders that are on their way down to Egypt. And Judah has the idea, okay, hey, guys, what profit does it for us if we just kill him and conceal his blood? No, let's sell him. Let's sell him and make a little money. And so they do. They bring him up out of the pit, get him ready. They flag down the caravan, call him over. It was probably a quick sale with no haggling. 20 pieces of silver, 20 shekels of silver. That's the going rate for a common slave. That's all he was. I'm sure they divided the shekels, the 20 of them, up between the 10 brothers, each getting 2. What do you think is going on in Joseph's mind? His mind, as he has about a 3-day journey down to Egypt, and there's a little voice in his head probably. I wonder what each brother will spend with his 2 shekels, because that's all you're worth to them. That's all you're worth to them. Your family. Your life's over now. You're going down to slavery. Nobody knows. Dad's going to think you're dead. No one's going to come looking for you. Your life is over. I'm sure that played in his head the whole time down there. He gets to Egypt. Immediately, probably when he gets there, he's put up on an auction block again. He's going to be sold again. This time, he's looking out as he's chained and naked on the auction block, looking out. He sees these wealthy Egyptian masters. their painted eyes, their shaved head and faces, speaking a foreign language. Joseph doesn't know how much he's sold for this time. He can't understand. He goes to Potiphar's house. Potiphar is an important man in Pharaoh's court. He's the captain of the guard, an officer. And and now Joseph is now his slave. At this point, it would have been easy. We would have not held it against Joseph if he'd given up and said, well, this is it. I'm a slave now. I'll die a slave. But that's not what happens, is it? It wasn't long until his hard work was paying off. He worked with excellence, so much so that he caught Potiphar's attention, and Potiphar promoted him through the ranks of his own servants until finally, I don't know how many years it was, maybe a couple years, maybe Joseph is in maybe his early 20s now in Potiphar's house, and he's taking care of everything. Potiphar's a busy man. He's busy doing things. He's home very little nowadays, especially with someone like Joseph there to run everything. All he knew was he had bread on the table when he came home. Joseph took care of everything else. But it wasn't just Potiphar's attention that he got. He got the attention of Potiphar's wife. I envision Potiphar's wife, a noble woman, married off to Potiphar at a young age, arranged by her father. That was a long time ago. A bored woman, a spiteful woman, who did not take it very well, the lack of attention that she received from her husband. And so what happens next, I don't think is just simply lust. I think she is seeing an opportunity. Let's see what happens. Potiphar's wife takes a liking to Joseph. Look at chapter 39, verse 7 now. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph. And she said, lie with me. But he refused and said to his master's wife, look, my master does not know what is with me in his house, and he has committed all things that he has to my hand. There is no greater than I in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? A man of integrity. This continues on probably for a while. Every time that he was in the house alone and he saw her coming, he knew, oh, here it comes again, here it comes again. Finally, she gets a little more aggressive. She grabs a hold of him, tries to take him by force. Lie with me. He'll never know. Come on. This time he runs out of the house. He gets out of there. He escapes her, but in doing so, he leaves behind his garment, maybe a shawl that he had over his shoulders. She grabs it, and she has it. He makes it outside, breathes a sigh of relief. Okay, that was close. Just then he hears a scream from inside the house. All the servants, all the people, they rush into the house to see their mistress there slunk against the wall, sobbing as if she's been attacked. And they ask her what's going on, holding up the piece of garment that belongs to Joseph. She talks not about him, but about her husband. My husband let this guy in here. And look what he's done to me. He came in to mock me, to sleep with me. And now look what happened. Look what the kind of guy that my husband trusts in. She rehearses the story again when he gets home. He gets home. Potiphar comes in. The servants are still probably attending to his wife. She's still got the piece of garment in her hand probably and says, huh? The Hebrew that you brought home came in to mock me? Yeah, you know, the guy that you trust, look what he did. She wanted to mock her husband. She wanted to openly, publicly shame him for his lack of attention to her. She didn't care about Joseph. No. He was just being used by her. He meant nothing to her. Potiphar, being the captain of the guard, grabs Joseph, puts him directly in the prison. There is no trial. There's no trial. There's no chance to hear his side. There's no chance for, is there going to be a parole? How long is this sentencing? It's for life. We're locking you up and we're throwing away the key. That little voice comes back in his head. Joseph, once again, you thought they cared about you? You thought you'd risen up in the ranks? You thought you'd earned a place? No, they don't care about you. You're nothing to them. She was just using you. Now she threw you away. And now you're going to die in this prison. Nothing's going to get you out. I'm sure that's the kind of things that he was hearing in his head. That's the sort of things that we all hear in our head when things like this happen, isn't it? That little voice. But he doesn't listen to that. He says, no, I'm not a victim of this. I was victimized. I was wronged. I was offended. I was abused. But that's not who I am. He goes on and he rises up even in the prison. I don't know how long it took. But Joseph goes from being stuck in the prison to the next thing we see him is the prison keeper has given everything into his hand because everything he does is prospering. At some point, we get to the point where Joseph is now 28 years old. It was 17 when he left home and was sold in slavery. Now he's 28, and here he is, and he's running the prison from the inside. He is administrating this thing. He's over there, and everything that they said to do, Joseph is the one calling the shots. You know, okay, we're making license plate. Okay, Joseph, he's over here telling them what to do. They're out tarring the roof or whatever, whatever it is. And so he's doing all that. He's running the show. Prison keeper doesn't even know what's going on. He's like, this is the best job ever. I just put my feet up on my desk. Joseph runs the thing. Joseph is also in charge of new arrivals for prison. Orientation, maybe. While Joseph is running the prison, there's a conspiracy going outside in the palace. A scandal. I don't know the details about it, but I can probably guess. It's a couple of days before Pharaoh's birthday feast, and I'm sure they were preparing something big. All the food, the wine, the drink that they had all gathered together. Maybe they found some poison around there. Well, who's to blame? Well, they didn't know. And pending an investigation, they arrested both the chief baker and the chief butler, the Pharaoh's cupbearer. They throw them both in the prison. They put them in prison, and Joseph goes to see them the next day, make sure they're getting acclimated. And they're not just sad, they're perplexed. They have this look on their face like they don't know what's going on. And so he maybe strikes up a conversation with them. And he hears both of them had dreams last night, and they don't know what it means. Weird dreams. Strange dreams. And so he says, well, try me. The butler gives his dream. And Joseph tells him, hey, okay, this means that in 3 days, you're going to be let out of here. They're going to bring you out, and then you're going to put the cup into the king's hand once again, into Pharaoh's hand. You'll be restored. Seeing a favorable interpretation, the baker is like, well, how about me? I got a dream too. He tells them, in 3 days, they're going to take you out of here, and they're going to hang you. Not the interpretation he was wanting. Wishing that one will not come true. But that happened just as Joseph said. 3 days later, one is restored, one is hanged. He does ask something of the butler, though. Look at chapter 40, verse 14. He asks to remember him. He says this to the butler, but remember me when it is well with you. And please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh. And get me out of this house. See, even though he was running it now, he doesn't want to be there. This is still prison. For indeed, I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me into the dungeon. And then skip on down to verse 23. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. What was that like? Day after day, he is waiting. He's holding on to hope. The butler leaves, goes back up to the palace. It's today of the day that he'll say something to get me out. And day after day, I bet that hope in his heart began to rot more and more. That little voice is back. You fool. That's fine. Hey, get angry. Get angry. You did good to that guy. What is he doing? He's probably laughing with his buddies about you right now. Hey, let me tell you about the idiot I met in prison. He didn't care about you. You're going to be here until you die. This was your one chance, and it's gone now. That's probably what he's got on loop in his head. That's the little voice. I'm sure he had some honest prayers with God, too. It doesn't record this, but we all do it. We all do. Times when we say, God, why did you allow me this glimpse of hope if it was never going to happen? Why did you allow me to do this? I've done nothing wrong. First, it was my brothers, and then it was Potiphar's wife falsely accusing me, and now this guy. I wonder if he had prayers like that. It doesn't say. If he did, I bet he didn't have many, because that's not how Joseph operates. He's not a victim. You know why? Because he chooses not to be. He chooses not to be. Look at one verse that sets this whole thing apart. Verse 21 of chapter 39. Go back to that. Just the first few words. 39, verse 21. But the Lord was with Joseph. That changes everything. You know why he wasn't down when he went to prison? You know why he didn't give up and die, play dead, live out the rest of his life as nothing? Because that's what the little voice told him he was. Because God was with him. I was telling Pastor Jason this morning about a series that I want to do called The Greatest Butts in the Bible. And he said that was a bad idea. Don't do it. You'll get fired. And so, but I'll give you a glimpse. You see these buts in the Bible, and it's but God. Everything that's before the but is rendered irrelevant when but God comes into play. Look at some of these verses. I'll rattle them off real quickly. So you see what I'm talking about. 1 Samuel 16:7. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his outward appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord does not see as man sees, for man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. It changes everything, doesn't it? Psalm 73, verse 26, my flesh and my heart fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. 1 Corinthians 3:6, we just talked about this a few weeks ago with Pastor Paul. Paul says, I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. Does it really matter who planted and who watered? Who gave the increase? It was God. And then finally, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 3 through 5. Look at this. Among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind. And were by nature children of wrath, just as the others. But God, who is rich in mercy because of the great love in which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, and made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter what's before the but. When but God comes in, everything changes. The situation is not what you thought it was. God has taken what was and is transforming it into what he is going to make it. Means there's always hope. And that's why Joseph doesn't listen to the Lord's voice saying, get angry, get bitter, get mad, die. Just lay down, give up. He doesn't listen to that. 2 years. It was 2 years later, the butler finally remembers Joseph. Pharaoh has a dream, and it's a weird one. I mean, this thing's got, a dream of, skinny cows, eating fat cows and things like that. I mean, blighted, withered up corn, attacking like good corn and eating it. It's weird. And so he tells his magicians, yeah. Rabbit out of the hat. Okay. And he brings these guys in, and he has his wise men, and he's like, okay, y'all tell me what this means. I'm freaking out here. Skinny cows are eating fat cows, and there's 7 of them that come up out of the river, and no one can tell Pharaoh what this means. No one can tell him. Maybe they don't want to get it wrong. And then the butler overhears this probably and says, hey, Pharaoh, I know a guy I met in prison. Maybe he can help you out. They go get Joseph. It's been 2 years. He's probably given up hope that the butler will ever make good with him. They clean Joseph up. They wash him. They shave him. They dress him. They bring him before Pharaoh. Pharaoh tells him his dream. He said, I've heard you're a guy that can interpret dreams. Joseph says, no, but God can. He'll give you a favorable response, that of peace. Pharaoh tells Joseph his dream. Joseph immediately tells him, there's going to be 7 years of plenty. Crops are going to be good, 7 years. Then there's going to be 7 years of famine. Not just regionally, across the whole world, it's going to be bad. What you need to do, Pharaoh, is you need to get a guy that's going to know how to manage this for you. A wise man who will take back about 1/5 of each crop during the 7 years of plenty so you won't die during the 7 years of famine. Look at his response. Genesis 41, starting verse 37. What does Pharaoh say to this? So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one like as this, a man in whom the Spirit is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. What a roller coaster ride his life has been. From thrown in the pit to slavery to rising up to being falsely accused to going to prison to rising up in prison to being forgotten about, and now here he is finally vindicated. Don't grow tired in doing good. Some of you will say, I'll have a good, when something bad happens, you'll say, I'll have a good attitude for a while. But then when we're not rewarded for it, when things don't turn around immediately, then we say, God, I tried. God, I tried. And then we fall into what that little voice tells us, that, no, you're the victim. People will understand if you go crazy for a little while, or if you just do this, or you just lay down. Clamor for their pity. They'll give it to you. But that's not what Joseph does. What is in Joseph's head at this point, I wonder? Is he bitter? He's finally made it. He's made it out. The nightmare is over. Is Joseph bitter? Look at Genesis 41, 51 through 52 now. during this time when Joseph is preparing during the 7 years of plenty, Pharaoh matches him up with a pretty girl. Isn't that nice? And then he gets married, has a couple kids, and then we see him naming his kids here. And this will give a little insight into where he's at. 51. Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh. For God has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim. For God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Would you get that? Is Joseph bitter? Is he bitter? Is he someone that is holding a grudge? Is he holding on to the past? No. He's saying this, what my brothers did to me doesn't have power over me. What Potiphar's wife did to me, falsely accusing me, doesn't have power over me. I'm not losing sleep over that. What the butler did to me, forgetting me for 2 years, doesn't hold power over me. I am not a victim of them. I am not under their power. I do not suffer from bad memories. I'm not held captive by my abusers. I am not living and controlled by my past. I'm past that. And did I do this of myself? Was it a self-help book? Did I read this and I said, Joseph, you just need to think happy thoughts? No, God got me there. He didn't do it himself. God has made me forget all my toil and my father's house. He's not thinking about his brothers. He's not reliving the nightmare of them throwing him in the pit, laughing, selling him off. He's gotten past it. He's not caught in that bondage. He's free. He's not the victim. You can probably see why, though, victim mentality is pretty popular today. You know why? Because in a strange, weird way, it does give you a little bit of power, a little cachet with people. Because if you're a victim today, you have built-in excuses. Yes, okay. My life is messed up, but let me tell you about how bad my parents were to me. Let me tell you about how daddy wasn't there. Let me tell you about how mama used to beat me and wouldn't let me play outside. Or, yes, I'm an alcoholic, but I just lost my job. Yeah, I'm addicted to prescription drugs, but yeah, I was in a bad car accident. Okay, yeah, I'm addicted to porn, but it's my wife's fault. Victims have built-in excuses for why they make decisions that they do. It's that little voice that says, you're the victim, so it's okay. Shall I tell you who that little voice is? Should I tell you the one who offers victimhood to you? You know his name. Satan wants you angry. He wants you depressed. He wants you living in the past. He wants you bitter. Because that's when he's got you. Christian, he wants you to doubt your faith. You know why? Because you'll never tell anybody about Jesus if you doubt your faith. You'll never stand up for the truth if you're insecure. If persecution has hurt you and you don't want any of that anymore, you won't stand up. I'll speed through the rest of the story. A lot of it we know. It's been 22 years since he has seen his brothers, but yet one day these 10 men show up in Egypt. They don't recognize him. Joseph comes out to them. They're there to buy food. They don't recognize him. We can't really blame him. It's been 22 years. They probably think he's dead. He comes out in the standard eye makeup, shaved head, shaved beard. He's speaking harshly to them, calls them spies. We're here, your servants are here to buy food. No, you're not. You're here to spy out the land. You want to see where our defenses aren't guarded. You're going to come in and steal our food. No, we're not going to do that. No. Okay, who are you? Who are you? Well, we're all the brothers, and we're one man's son. No, okay, who is your father alive? He asked him. He starts to ask him questions about the family. Okay, you got any other brothers? Yeah, we have one Benjamin, he's back home. Oh, yeah, that's good. You have any other brothers? This guy's reading our mail. And that's when they start to think. They start to talk in Hebrew to each other, thinking that this Egyptian can't hear us. Reuben says, I told y'all not to do this. Now Joseph's blood is on our hands. God's doing this to us. We're going to end up in prison. And the guy just brought up, you got any other brothers? And yeah, we do. We have one. That's no more. Joseph decides to test his brothers. He wants to see what kind of men they are. It's been 22 years. What are they like now? He tells them, all right, Simeon, you stay here. I'm going to put you in prison. The rest of you, the 9, you're going to go back. All right, go back and get Benjamin and bring him back. We'll see if you're honest men. They do that. They go back. They take a little longer. Simeon is probably thinking they forgot about him. They finally come back with Benjamin. Jacob is really worried. He's making them promise that they'll bring him back alive. They bring him back. They have lunch with Joseph at his house. It's weird. Things are happening like Joseph sits them in their birth order at the table. How did he know that? He gives 5 times as much food to Benjamin, showing a little favoritism as himself. Finally, he sends them on their way, but this time he plays another trick on them. He's going to test them. He puts his silver cup in Benjamin's bag of grain, sends them out and tells his guys, like, hey, have the cops get him on the edge of town, arrest him, search him. They do. Hey, you steal anything from this guy's house, the governor's house? No. And they look through their sacks. Hey, if we have anything of his, kill the guy. We'll be his slaves. I don't care. The guilty party, do whatever you want to him. Then they get to Benjamin's sack, and there it is. The fear that must have been on all of them. They get brought back, and Joseph is playing it up. He's testing them because he wants to see how they'll act to the prospect of losing another brother to Egypt. Finally, it's Judah who steps forward and says, no, please, take me. Take me. The same guy that said, I got an idea, let's sell him, now is standing up and saying, please, take me instead. Joseph can't handle it. He sends the servants out of the room and he says, no, it's me. It's Joseph. I'll skip to the end now. He moves the whole family down to Egypt. Joseph and all of his family is together again, united with his dad. Jacob lives another 17 years and then dies. And then the fear comes back. Joseph has been nice this whole time except for what's he going to do now that dad is dead? Go now to the end. We have made it to chapter 50 finally. Chapter 50, verse 15. Let's read this. His brothers are fearing now. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, perhaps Joseph will hate us and may actually repay us for all the evil which we did to him. So they sent messengers to Joseph, they didn't go themselves, saying, before your father died, he commanded, saying, this shall we say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespass of your servants, of the God of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we are your servants. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for am I in the place of God? Verse 20 is the key. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people alive. He doesn't tell them, hey, It's okay, no big deal. Hey, it's in the past. We can forget it never happened. He doesn't say that. Joseph, the victim, has now gone, and now he's talking to his abusers. And he doesn't tell them, no, it's okay, everything's fine, everything's okay, we'll forget it ever happened. No, he says, you did evil to me. What you did was wrong. He calls that out. He doesn't sweep this under the rug. He calls them out for what it is. But, and I'm sure at that point, as he paused, they were very scared of what he would do. They know what they would do, but what would Joseph do? The little voice telling him, now's your chance. Get them back. But that's not how Joseph lives. Joseph lives in a different reality. He is not a victim. He's not living in that victimhood mentality. And so he said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Think about it. If Joseph had not been sold into slavery, he would not, if it ended up in Potiphar's house, he would have not been seduced by Potiphar's wife, thrown into prison. He wouldn't have heard the butler's dream. He wouldn't have been there to fear Pharaoh's dream. He wouldn't have been there to help Egypt out during the famine. And his whole family would have died. 22 years later, and God vindicates Joseph. We have something like this in the New Testament, don't we? Romans 8:28. We know that all things work together for good to them who love God, to them that are called according to his purpose. That means that everything that happens to you, every bad thing that God allows into your life, did you know it has a reason? Did you know that it's for a reason? And so when you think back on all the things, all the wounds that you sustained from people, all the paper cuts that got infected and are now threatening, everything that they've said, everything they've done, and usually it's by those closest to us. When we forgive, it's not really for them, is it? It's for us. It's saying, I forgive you because I am not held captive by what you did to me. I'm free. I'm not your victim. I'm not laying down. I'm not dead. I'm not angry. I'm not depressed. I'm not bitter. I'm over it. And did I do it myself? No. God did it because he had a plan the whole time. When you can say that to yourself, to that little voice when it comes up, when you can forgive those who have hurt you, you take away all their power and you move past it. Some of you need to move past hurts, don't you? It's been with you for a long time. You're held captive by the bad memories. You see the person, and every time it comes up, you're their victim. God says, they meant it for evil. I meant it for good. You may not even see the good for a long time, but I did. You live in that reality, you are not the victim. Let's pray. Lord, you offer freedom. Your word gives us, it gives us the things that we don't see. It tells us that you're working in ways that we don't know. Because you're a good God. And though we don't understand it all, we trust your goodness and we know everything that happens for a reason. And that reason is for our good. We praise you that you have promised us that as believers. We can walk in that reality and not live in the prison of our minds, suffering the memories of the wounds that we have suffered. But we can live free in you. Thank you for what you've done for us. In you we have victory. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.